Today's guest is the founder of the Post-Betrayal Transformation Institute. She's a holistic psychologist, a health, mindset, and personal development expert. A recent PhD study on how we experience betrayal made three groundbreaking discoveries that changes how long it takes to heal. In addition to being on Fox, CBS, and the Dr. Oz Show, TEDx, and more, she's an award-winning speaker, podcaster, coach, and author dedicated to helping people move past their betrayals as well as other blockages, preventing them from the health, work, relationship, confidence, and happiness that they want most. Welcome to the show, Dr. Debi Silber. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. Looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Mirrortalk podcast. I really appreciate your presence here today and in this episode. I read that your personal experience with, heartbreaking betrayal from your family and then from your husband motivated you to enroll in a PhD program in transpersonal psychology. Would you like to talk about your life journey so far and your experience with betrayals?
Yeah, sure. It's actually my 30th year in business. And as business would change, so as life would change, so would business. And I started in health and then mindset and then personal development. And then I had trauma. First, it was the betrayal of my family. And I thought I did what I needed to do to heal from that. And then a couple of years later, it happened again. And this time it was my husband. So I got him out of the house and I looked at the two experiences and I said, what's similar to these two besides me? And I realized boundaries were always getting crossed. I never took my own needs seriously. And I said, well, that's it. Something drastic has to change. So 4 kids, 6 dogs, a thriving business. I was 50 years old and I said, that's it. We're going back for this PhD. I didn't know how I was going to pay for it, how I was going to manage it and figure out the time. But it was in transpersonal psychology. That's the psychology of transformation and human potential. I was changing so much and I didn't quite understand what was happening. He was too on his own, wasn't ready to look at that. And then it was time to do a study. So I studied betrayal. What holds us back? What helps us heal? And what happens to us physically, mentally, and emotionally when the people closest to us lie, cheat, and deceive? That study led to 3 groundbreaking discoveries, which changed my health, my business, my family, my life.
Yes. Can you tell me about, these 3 groundbreaking discoveries that you made from a PhD?
Yeah. So the first one was, originally I was studying betrayal and post-traumatic growth. Post-traumatic growth is, if you can imagine, like an upside to trauma, how any crisis, death of a loved one, disease, natural disaster, anything, leaves you with a new awareness, perspective, or insight that you didn't have. Like maybe you lose someone you love and you realize life is short. It's like that kind of thing. Yeah. But I had been through death of a loved one, and I also had been through disease. And I was like, no, betrayal feels so different for me. But I didn't want to assume that that was the case for everybody else too. So I asked all my study participants and I said, if you've been through other traumas, other crises besides betrayal, does it feel different for you? Everybody said, oh my gosh, it's so different. Here's why. Because it feels so intentional, we take it so personally. So the whole self has to be rebuilt. Rejection, abandonment, confidence, belonging, worthiness, trust, they're all shattered and they all have to be rebuilt. So to call it post-traumatic growth didn't feel like the same thing. So if I were to give you an equation, it would be this: post-traumatic growth, like rebuilding after an experience, plus rebuilding the self equals a new term I coined, which is now called post-betrayal transformation. So it is the complete and total rebuild after your experience and of yourself after an experience with betrayal. That was the first discovery.
Yeah. Yes.
You want me to get to the next one?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. So the second one was that there's actually a collection of symptoms, physical, mental, and emotional, so common to betrayal, it's known as post-betrayal syndrome. And we've had over 25,000 people take the post-betrayal syndrome quiz on our site to see to what extent they're struggling. What's so interesting about that is we've all heard time heals all wounds, right? I have the proof. That's not true, because people write things when it comes to betrayal. People write things. There's a question that says, is there anything else you'd like to share on the quiz? And people write things like, my betrayal happened 35 years ago and I'm unwilling to trust again.
Mm.
My betrayal happened 15 years ago. It feels like it happened yesterday. So we know when it comes to betrayal, if there is a specific protocol to heal from it, and if not, you can't count on time or a new relationship, whatever that is, to heal it, because it won't. And the truth is, we can spot an unhealed betrayal a mile away. And for everybody who's watching and listening, I see it in health, in work, in relationships. You ready? I see it these ways. In relationships, I'll see it in one of two ways. The first way is repeat betrayal. If you have repeat betrayals, where you keep saying, what the heck? I keep going from friend to friend to friend, or boss to boss to boss, partner, partner, partner. It's different face, but it's the same thing. Is it me? Yes, it is. There's something really powerful that you need to learn. Not that it's your fault. It's really your opportunity. Until and unless you do, you will keep getting opportunities in the form of people to teach you that lesson. Like maybe you need better boundaries in place. Maybe you need to learn you are lovable, worthy, deserving, get it through your head already, whatever it is. And once that lesson's learned, no reason to keep repeating it. So when I see a repeat betrayal, I know it's an unhealed betrayal. The other way I see it is, and I see this so often, people put the big wall up. They're like, nope, no one's getting near me again. Been there, done that. And they think it's coming from a place of strength. It's not. It's coming from fear. So when I see one of those two in relationships, I know that person's not healed. We see it in health. People go to the most well-meaning doctors, coaches, healers, therapists to manage a stress-related symptom, illness, condition, disease. And at the root of it, very often there's an unhealed betrayal.
Yes.
I see it at work all the time. People, let's say they want to ask for that raise or promotion. They deserve it, but their confidence was shattered in the betrayal. So they don't have the confidence to ask, and they're bitter and resentful instead. Or they want to be a team player, collaborative partner, but the person they trusted the most proved untrustworthy. How do they trust that boss, that coworker, that joint venture partner? You see, it shows up everywhere.
Yes, that's true. Wow, wow. And what was the third one? What was the third
Yeah.
discovery?
So this was the most exciting. When this showed up, I just couldn't even believe what just happened. What we learned was, while we can stay stuck for years, decades, a lifetime, and so many of us do, if we're going to fully heal, going from symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome to that place, that totally healed state of post-betrayal transformation, we're going to go through 5 now proven predictable stages. And what's even more exciting about that is we now know what happens physically, mentally, and emotionally at every one of those stages. And we know what we need to do to move from one stage to the next. So this was so exciting because now we realized healing's predictable. If someone's willing to do what it takes, they will predictably move through the stages, the 5 stages of betrayal to breakthrough. I'm happy to share the stages if you want.
Yes, please. Yes, I would love to
Yeah.
learn them.
Yeah. I also, every couple of months, I pull the stats from the quiz to see, how people struggle physically, mentally, emotionally. I can share those too.
Yes, please.
So with the 5 stages, it's all broken down in Trust Again, my most recent book. It's what we teach within the PBT Institute, but here's a boiled down version. Ready? So stage 1 is like a setup stage. I saw this with every single study participant, me too. So this is before it happens. And if you imagine 4 legs of a table, the 4 legs being physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, right?
Yes.
What I saw with everybody was this real heavy lean on the physical and the mental, right? All here, and kind of ignoring the emotional and the spiritual all here, right? So they're thinking and doing, not really paying attention to the feeling and being. So imagine a table with only 2 legs, right? Easy for the table to topple over. That's us. Stage 2, the scariest of all of the stages. And this is the breakdown of the body, the mind, and the worldview. So this is D-Day, Discovery Day. This is where you learn about your betrayal, the shock, right? And so there's a breakdown of the body. You just ignited the stress response. So now you're headed for every single stress-related symptom, illness, condition, disease. Your mind is in a complete state of chaos and overwhelm. This makes no sense. You can't wrap your mind around what you just discovered. And there's a breakdown of the worldview. The worldview is your mental model, the rules that you have that govern your world.
Yeah.
This person's safe, don't go there. This is okay, that's bad, right? And in a moment, every rule you've ever had, gone. Terrifying. So the bottom has bottomed out on you. But think about it. If the bottom were to suddenly bottom out on you, what would you do? You grab hold of it. You'd grab anything you could to stay safe and stay alive. That's stage 3. Survival instincts emerge. It's the most practical of all of the stages. Can you help me? If not, get out of my way. How do I survive this experience? Where do I go? Who can I trust? How do I feed my kids? Like, it's practical. Here's the trap though. Ready?
Yes.
This is the stage we get stuck in. Most people get stuck right here because once you've figured out how to survive, right? You're like, okay, I got this. And because it feels so much better than the shock and trauma of where you just came from, you think it's good. You have no idea there's a stage 4 or stage 5 waiting. Transformation doesn't even start till stage 4. But because you think this is it, you start planting roots here and 4 things happen. The first thing is you get your story. You get to be right. You get someone to blame. You get a target for your anger. Yeah, you're laughing because I have a feeling you may know that, right?
Yeah.
You get sympathy from everybody you tell your story to. You don't have to do the hard work of learning to trust again. Can I trust you? Should I trust you? Forget it. I'm not trusting anybody. So you start planting deeper roots here because you're here longer than you're supposed to be. Now your mind starts doing things like maybe you deserved it. Maybe you're not all that great. And so you plant deeper roots, right? And because this is how you think, now like energy attracts like energy. So now you're calling situations and circumstances and relationships towards you to confirm, yep, this is exactly where you belong. Gets worse. I'll get you out of here though. Because it feels so bad, but you don't know there's a stage 4 and stage 5. You're not happy, but here's where you resign yourself. You're like, I better find a way to be okay with this, but I'm not happy. So right here is where you start using food, drugs, alcohol, work, TV, keeping busy, anything to numb, avoid, distract yourself from what's so painful to feel or face. But here's what happens. You do this for a day, a week, a month. Now it's a habit, right? A year, 10 years, 20 years. And Toby, I can see someone 20 years out and say that drinking you're doing, or that emotional eating you're doing, or that numbing in front of the TV you're doing, do you think that has anything to do with your betrayal? And they would look at me like I'm crazy. And they would say, it happened 20 years ago. But do you see, all they did was put themselves in stage 3 and stay there. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. Yes, it does.
Yeah. Anyway, that's why this is the one we get stuck in. Anyway, if you're willing to let go of your story, grieve the loss, do a bunch of things, you can move to stage 4. Stage 4 is finding and adjusting to a new normal. So here's where you accept and acknowledge, I can't undo my betrayal, but I control what I do with it. So I always use that example. If you've ever moved to a house, office, condo, apartment, whatever, your stuff's not all there yet. It's not quite cozy yet, but you know it's going to be okay, right? When you're in that mental place, you start turning down the stress response. So you're not healing just yet, but at least you're not causing the massive damage you were causing in stages 2 and stage 3. Now, what's so interesting about stage 4 also is, if you were to move, you don't take everything with you. You don't take the things you've outgrown that don't represent, who you want to be when you're in that new space. And what I found was, if your friends weren't there for you, you've outgrown them right here. You don't take them with you.
Yeah, that's true.
So now you're making this your new home mentally, right? You're making it okay. You move into the 5th most beautiful stage. And this is healing, rebirth, and a new worldview. The body starts to heal. Self-love, self-care, eating well, exercise. You didn't have the bandwidth for that earlier. Now you were surviving. Now you do. Your mind, you're making new rules, new boundaries based on what you see so clearly now. And you have a new worldview based on the road you just traveled and all you experienced. And the 4 legs of the table, in the beginning, it was just the physical and the mental. By this point, we're solidly grounded because we're focused on the emotional and the spiritual too. Those are the 5 stages.
Wow, that's a lot of stages to go through.
Yeah, but the order doesn't change. I mean, you will, and you outgrow one as you move into the other.
Yes. But sometimes, earlier you were talking about, some of these betrayals repeat themselves just for us to learn a lesson out of it. What is it that some can it happen that that we've gotten a lesson but the betrayal still repeats itself? Like, is that possible also?
It repeats itself for a few reasons, because you haven't learned the lesson, because see what happens, there's a big link between betrayal and self-betrayal.
Mm,
Because let's say you've been betrayed
yes.
and you don't really do anything about it. You know it's not in your best interest. You know this person isn't treating you with respect, with integrity, with love, with any of these things.
Mm,
And
mm.
when you stick around for that, that's self-betrayal. So we
Ah,
see that all the time. What I see too is, people are so afraid of that death and destruction of the old. That's what happens with betrayal, though. There is a shattering of, of all of it.
yeah.
But because there's a shattering and death and destruction of the old, you get to rebirth something new.
Mm,
Whether rebuilding yourself is always a choice. Whether you rebuild just yourself and you move on, that's what I did with my family. It wasn't an option to rebuild with them. Or if the situation lends itself, if you're willing, if you want to, you can rebuild something entirely new
mm,
with the person who hurt you. That's what I
yes.
did with my husband. So as two totally brand new people, we married
Mm,
each other again. New
yeah.
rings, new vows, new dress, and our 4 kids is our bridal party. Never in a million years would I ever have done that if he wasn't totally different and if I
Yeah.
wasn't totally different. But what so many people do is they're so afraid
Mm,
of the end, right?
yes.
So they
Yes.
try to just patch it up, patch it up, patch it up.
Mm,
And it doesn't work. It
yeah.
just doesn't work. That's where the repeat betrayals happen.
Yes. But how do we learn to, trust again? Like you made mention of, you getting married to your husband again with new ring, new vows, new dress, and your
Mhm.
4 kids as your bridal party. How did you learn to, open up to trust your husband again, the same
Yeah.
person?
And I teach a 4-step trust rebuilding process. It's in the book Trust Again. It's what we
Mm,
teach within the PBT Institute, but I'll share that here too. Ready?
yes. Yes.
What happens with so many people is trust is shattered, and
Mm,
then we're so uncomfortable. We don't like the feeling, so we're like, okay, forget it. I'll just trust you again. It
yes.
doesn't work.
Mm,
It doesn't work. I look at trust like a brick wall,
mm,
where the only way I know of a brick wall being built is brick by brick by brick, right? Now
yes.
imagine the person who built the brick wall in one moment shatters the whole thing,
Oh,
right? So now the person whose trust was shattered, you can look at the brick walls, the rubble of brick, and say, I don't have the least bit of interest watching that thing get rebuilt. That's totally fine.
mm,
However, the person whose trust was shattered, if they're willing to watch the brick wall be rebuilt,
mm,
the person who shattered it has to be a really good bricklayer. And they have to do the same thing all over again. And that's why it takes time.
yes.
Every opportunity they have to show that they're trustworthy, 1 brick in the wall.
Mm,
Another opportunity to show they're trustworthy, 1 brick in the wall. But you know what I see people do? Because it's so uncomfortable,
yeah.
imagine the brick wall is shattered and the person whose trust was shattered is like, forget it, I'll build the brick wall.
Mm,
No,
mm,
that person has to build it. You see,
yes. Yes. I do.
that
Yes.
makes all the difference.
Yes.
When the person whose trust was shattered because they're uncomfortable goes ahead and builds that brick wall, the other person's like, I don't have to do anything.
Mm,
See?
yes. Yes.
And neither of them learn.
Mm, yes, yes. That means if, for example, if my trust was shattered, for example, and I decide to, build the brick wall myself, I might, build the wall around myself and ignore him or ignore her out of my life. Like build the wall around myself, blocking he or she out of my life totally.
Well, you could do that too, but that's not fair to you.
Mm.
It's like if you get burned on the stove and you say, I'm never cooking again. That's not fair to you. You know what I
No.
mean? So
Yes.
then it's like living half a life. So what you want to do is you need to slowly, carefully, and cautiously learn how to trust again. So I teach this 4-step process. Ready?
Yes.
Because what happens with betrayal is you certainly don't trust your betrayer. You don't trust yourself either because you're like, I'm a bright person. How did I not know? How did I not see? And I don't trust that person. I don't trust that person. So all trust is shattered.
Mm.
So because all trust is shattered, there are four levels that need to be rebuilt. The first is from the ground up. So we start at the very foundation, and you pick the most obvious thing you can count on that you could trust in again.
Mm.
And for some people, it's like, will the sun rise? I don't know. I don't even trust that anymore. So you go out every morning, you're like, huh, what do you know? There it is. Can I trust it? No. And you check again and again and again, whatever it is for you, you know? And when you believe in that most basic thing, that's a foundation that you can stand on, right? So that's level one. Once that's in place, because I'm talking, you know, trust is completely shattered. You got to build, that's the very foundation. Once that's built, now you have to work on building trust in your intuition, in your wise inner guide, you know. And the way to do that is you want to picture and feel, what does trust feel like for you?
Mm.
And it's different for everybody, so I couldn't tell you. So what does trust feel like? So maybe you picture like your dog wagging his or her tail,
Yeah.
or you picture two babies laughing, whatever it is, right? That you can picture that, and that to you, you could trust that, right? How does that feel? Does it feel open, expansive? Where do you feel it? That's what trust feels like for you.
Yes.
Then you go ahead and you picture D-Day, Discovery Day, or when someone was lying right to your face. How did you feel? Where did you feel it? That represents what a lack of trust feels like.
Mm.
And then what you do is you go about your day and you check in. Does it feel closer to the two babies laughing, or does it feel closer to the, you see? And
Yes.
what you're doing is you're learning to strengthen your intuition,
Mm.
trust your gut.
Mm.
So you feel you have a little sense of safety and security building. So now you have that foundation, right, that you're standing on. You trust your gut. Now you have to learn to trust in yourself again,
Mm.
right? Because you lost trust in yourself. So to
Yes.
do that, you give yourself little tasks and then you do them. I'm going to
Mm.
make that phone call and then you do. I'm going to go to the gym and then you do. I'm going to drink that glass of water and then you do. I will not call my ex and then you don't. Whatever it is, right?
Yes.
And what you're doing is you're showing yourself you're trustworthy.
Mm.
If you say something, it's law. You
Mm.
mean it.
Yeah.
So now imagine you have that foundation, you trust your gut, you trust yourself. You see how you feel stronger and you have this sense of safety and security. From there, now you cautiously and carefully start trusting in other people again. But
Yeah.
what we do is we don't do those first three and we go right to trusting others. You see why it falls?
Yes.
Why
Yes.
it fails? Yeah,
Mhm. So
that's why.
one has to go through each stages and heal from the betrayal. Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because we that's the thing, we don't, and we're so unhappy,
Mm.
and we miss that person, or we just want it better again, and so we go right back to it, right back to where we were,
Mm.
and it never ever works. You know, there were three groups in my study who didn't heal. The first group was the group where they were refusing to accept their betrayal.
Mm.
They had their story, and that's all. That's it. That's what they were hanging on to it.
Yeah.
The second group was the group that was numbing, avoiding, distracting. So maybe they ran to the doctor who put them on mood stabilizers or anti-anxiety medications, or they started drinking,
Mm.
or they started emotionally eating. They didn't heal. May have made the day a bit easier to get through, not without a price.
Mm.
And the third group, this was the group where the betrayer had very little consequences.
Yeah.
So whether it was because of fear of not wanting to break up a family,
Mm.
fear, financial fear, fear
Mm.
of the unknown,
Mm.
religious reasons, that was a big one too.
Mm.
They just tried to overlook it, put it, you know, behind them. I saw two things with that group: a further deterioration of the relationship, and number two, this group was the most physically sick. Your broken heart can't handle that.
Wow. That's really sad. That's sad.
Yeah. And that's
Mm.
what people do.
Yeah.
That's what people do. So the relationship just gets worse. There are
Mhm.
really no consequences. So the betrayer's like, all right, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
Why not do it again? You
Mm.
see?
Yes. Yes.
And because there's such a fear of that's it, it's
Mm.
over.
Mm.
You know, neither one really learns. You
Mm.
see, like after my betrayal, that was it. That was the deal breaker. I
Yes.
was like, I wasn't counting on being a single mom and doing this on my own, but that was the deal, and you broke the deal, so deal's off. And it was only because now I was like, all right, my only job is to heal.
Mm.
And on his own, that's what he decided to do too. So then
Yes.
you come back together as two very different people.
Mm.
But if you don't have that breakdown, you can't have that breakthrough.
Very true. That's true. Wow. That's very powerful. So how can you have wonderful resources that are very helpful to people. Like, and for example, people that are going through betrayal right now. You have your institute, the Post Betrayal Transformation Institute, and you have two books. You have the Unshakable Woman and your newest book, Trust Again. So can you tell me about these resources and how our listeners, could make use of them to, overcome or to, go through all the stages of betrayal or post-betrayal transformation to become a new person or to, come out as a better person?
Oh, they are the strongest, wisest, healthiest, most confident people I've ever known. Because think about it, when you rebuild from something like this, from the person who gave you the sense of safety and security, and that's the one who shatters it. When you rebuild from something like that, you're just, I mean, it's just this version of you that never would have had the chance to show up if that didn't happen. Yes. So anyway, the PBT Institute, what that is I took what the research proved we needed. And actually, when the 5 stages were discovered, I was like, I got to get this out to people. I mean, this is like, they can literally move through their experience in a proven research-based way. Yeah. So I did, and I created our signature program, and it blew up. And I was like, then people wanted to work with me, and I was like, I'm only one person. So I created a certification program. Yeah. So doctors, coaches, healers, therapists can move people through the 5 stages. And then I saw what wasn't working. The wrong type of support does way more harm than good. So I was like, I'm not including any of that. And then I said, well, what would happen if we put everything that works all under one roof? That's the PBT Institute. So we have, and it's global. So we have people from all over the world. So we have certified coaches and practitioners who teach daily classes. So they're all certified in the 5 stages, but they're coming in with 10, 20, 30 plus years in cognitive behavioral therapy. We have a coach who specializes in working with the alpha male because he's a guy and he just was, like a total regular tough guy. And so he works with a lot of our men. We have people who coaches who specialize in addiction, in chronic pain, in narcissism, in reconciliation, in divorce. So they're teaching their areas of expertise. So members get to know, like, and trust them, and then they can work with them privately. We have the programs, I'm in there, and we have the right type of support. So it's not like, where people, it's like, you ever see those support groups where it's just like, it just keeps you stuck, where someone's like, oh, this happened to me. And then they're like, oh, you think that's bad? This is what happened to me. Oh, you think you got it bad. It's not like that. Yeah. Our community is more like, what'd you do? You did that? How'd it go? Wow, let me try that. It's up to lift and inspire. And we have clubs too. So we have clubs based on all different types of specialties. Like we have a men's club, so the men can go somewhere just so they're not, bombarded by the women. It's like an online, men's thing there. And so it's really designed to give you every single thing research-based that you need to heal. And I made it a no-brainer. I mean, we have our lowest level of membership. It's $97 a month. That's $3 a day. I mean, you could really go to like 15, 20 live classes a week for less than one appointment with a therapist. And if that therapist doesn't know what they're doing, it does way more harm than good. So I purposely made it that there's no reason to stay stuck. Staying stuck now is a choice. You don't have to.
You don't have to stay stuck. And how can people access this, institute? How can they enroll to it?
The first thing is I really recommend everybody take the post-betrayal syndrome quiz to see to what extent they're struggling. They can just find that at the PBT, as in post-betrayal transformation, thepbtinstitute.com/quiz.
Yes. I'm going to place the information in the show notes for this episode. So I encourage everyone to click on the link or copy the link and take the quiz. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yes. So your book, Trust Again, I would love to hear about it. You've talked about it already, about the 5 stages and, about the post-betrayal and how you could learn to trust again after going through, heartbreaking betrayal. But can you, tell the listeners out there, what they could, get from it again or gain from it again if they read it?
Yeah. I wrote the book because at a time where we need support the most, we're the least likely to seek it because there's so much shame. There's so much embarrassment. So I thought, okay, at the very least, let me just give them a book so they can move through the stages, quietly at their own pace. And we have the audio version. I read the book. So this way, it's me and the Kindle version. And it's the 5 stages are all mapped out with experiential exercises, moving you from one stage to the next. We have the 4-step trust rebuilding process. My story's in there. My study participants' stories are in there. And it's just a way to just move you forward. And we have it on Amazon and everything, but get it from this link instead, because then I could give you all kinds of bonuses too. And you can just find that at thepbtinstitute.com/trust again.
Okay, that will also be found in the show notes for this episode. So you can just click on it and get all the bonuses and gifts from Dr. Debi Silber. Yeah, that was awesome. Yes. So, we've been talking about, betrayal all along, and you've talked about, the 5 stages or, of being transformed from your betrayal. But there are some cases in which you've made mention of this also, that you are distracting it, or you are numbing it, you are numbing your betrayal. Are there like some physical symptoms that we could notice, like when you have gone through betrayal? Are there like some physical symptoms or maybe some mental symptoms that could be noticeable in our friends, in ourselves, that we say, you've gone through betrayal, or I've gone through betrayal, that's why I'm noticing these physical symptoms or emotional symptoms?
Yeah. And those are symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome. So like I said, every few months I pull the stats from the quiz just to see. The quiz, for people who've taken the quiz, we have every age represented, and we have almost every country. So this is out of figure 25,000 people. Ready?
Yes.
78% constantly revisit their experience. 81% feel a loss of personal power. 80% are hypervigilant. 94% deal with painful triggers. And if you've had them, those triggers can take you down. These are the most common physical symptoms. 71% have low energy. 68% have sleep issues. 63% extreme fatigue. So you could sleep all night, you wake up, you're exhausted. Those are your adrenals. Your adrenals just crashed. 47% have weight changes. So in the beginning, maybe you can't hold food down. Later on, you're using food for comfort, right? So then there's weight gain. 45% have digestive issues. That's any kind of gut issue. Crohn's, IBS, diverticulitis, constipation, diarrhea, anything, you name it. The most common mental symptoms. 78% are overwhelmed. 70% walking around in a state of disbelief. 68% are unable to focus. 64% are in shock. 62% are unable to concentrate. So imagine you can't concentrate, you have a gut issue, you're exhausted, and you're supposed to work. You're supposed to raise your kids, and right? That's not even the emotional symptoms. Emotionally, 88% extreme sadness, 83% anger. If you go back and forth between anger and sadness, that's exhausting, right? Spending your time between those two states. 82% feel hurt, 80% have anxiety, 79% are stressed. So here's why I wrote the book, Trust Again. Ready? 84% have an inability to trust. 67% prevent themselves from forming deep relationships because they're afraid of being hurt again. 82% find it hard to move forward. 90% want to move forward, but they don't know how.
Yes. Well, that's actually a very big, challenge. How do I move forward? Even you won't just feel stuck, and you are willing, you are motivated to move forward, but you just don't know how to move forward.
That's it. Well, that's what the Institute is for, because, and that's what the book is for, because this way, if you don't know how to move forward, you stay in stage 3. And that's why most people do that. But when you know how to move forward, when you learn about the 5 stages, right? Then you say, oh my gosh, so I'm in stage 3 and I have to do this and that to move to stage 4. Okay, I'm ready to do that. Oh, I have to do this and that to move from stage 4 to stage 5. Okay, I can do that. So it's predictable.
Yes, that's true. Wow. So I'll encourage everyone to pick the book, Trust Again, or just enroll for the course in the Institute, and learn how to move forward, learn how to trust again, and learn how to become a better person, transform yourself from all of these post-betrayal syndromes and symptoms that you have. Wow, that's awesome. So for someone out there who is like a little bit confused, or for myself actually, like I would love to know, what's the difference between a post-betrayal transformation and a post-traumatic growth or transformation? What was that?
Yeah. So and this is, remember in the beginning when I was saying post-traumatic growth is like the upside of a trauma. Like death of a loved one, disease, natural disaster, financial crisis, whatever it is. But you come out of that and you're different, and you realize life is short, or appreciate the little things, or you get something good out of something bad, right? That's
Yes.
post-traumatic growth.
Mm,
But betrayal, I was like, it's different, because yes, you come out of your experience, but you also have to completely and totally rebuild yourself,
mm,
right? Because like if you lose someone you love, you don't take it personally. You miss them, you're
yes.
sad, you grieve, you mourn the loss, but you don't
Mm,
take it personally, right?
mm,
You don't lose trust in that person.
mm,
With betrayal, you don't trust yourself, you don't trust you don't trust anything. You feel rejected, you feel abandoned, your confidence is shattered. That doesn't happen with other crises, and it's not saying which is better or which is worse, they all stink. But what
mm,
I'm saying is, with other life crises, it's not an attack and the shattering of the self
mm,
where betrayal is. So it needed its own term. So it's post-traumatic growth. If I were to give you an equation, it would be that post-traumatic growth plus rebuilding the
mm,
self, everything that was shattered,
mm.
equals post-betrayal transformation.
Okay, okay. No, I ask the question because sometimes when someone hurts us in a way or betrays us in a way, we say, "Oh, that experience traumatized me," for
Mm-hmm.
example. So one
Yeah.
one thinks, "Oh, maybe that is not only a post betrayal transformation, but also a post traumatic growth also."
That's why it's both. So yeah, you have to
Yes,
heal
yes.
from that experience, but
Mm,
you have to also heal everything that was shattered in yourself.
mm,
Rejection, abandonment, confidence, belonging, worthiness, trust. Like,
yes.
think about it. If you lose all your stuff, let's say in a house fire,
Mhm,
those things aren't really affected. Rejection, abandonment, confidence. You know what I mean? You're
yes.
you're sad, you miss your stuff. You're lucky you're alive,
Mm,
but yourself is intact. You
yes, that's
see?
true. Yes.
Betrayal, it's shattered, and it all has to be rebuilt.
Yes, yes. So how do we know, how do we know if we've, gone through all of these 5 stages already and we are totally healed? Or how do we know if we are still stuck in stage 3, for example, and we have not healed from the betrayal?
Yeah. Well, it would be if you have those symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome, you could heal from all of it. So
Yeah.
if you still have those symptoms, you're stuck. When I mentioned stage 3, if you're benefiting from, you get that sympathy from other people and you have your story, and if somehow that's making you feel like, yeah, I have that, and
Yes.
you just don't think there's anything better, if you're numbing, distracting, any of those things, you're stuck. You're stuck in stage 3.
Okay, okay. So, no,
That's
sometimes
how you know.
yes, yes,
Yeah. And
that's
most
true.
people don't. Like I said, that's where they stay. Transformation, the best, strongest, most empowered version of you doesn't even start until stage 4.
That's true. Yes, yes. I
You
was
owe
asking.
it to yourself to heal. You've been through the worst already. You owe it to yourself to move through stage 4 and stage 5.
Yeah, you're right. You're very right. Yes. No, I was asking this question because I was, sometimes some people think this is my new normal. We are good. I'm okay with the situation. I'll just stay angry or stay in this new stage of experience that I've gotten from life or from this betrayal.
That's not healed.
Mhm.
That's not healed. Like people say to me, no, 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 I'm really good as long as I don't see that person. That's not
Exactly.
healed. No. Healed.
Yeah.
It's a different thing. You really, the way it goes is you go from this extreme sadness
Mhm.
to like, how could this happen? Then you get angry. Are you
Mhm.
kidding? You did this to me?
Mhm.
And then you go to pity. Really? You have to behave like that? And then you go to compassion.
Yeah.
I get it. When you're in compassion, you're good.
Mm, yes, yes. Well, for someone that's still numbing at this stage, yeah, at this point, what questions should we ask ourselves in this situation? Like when I'm distracting myself or numbing myself from this post betrayal or this betrayal situation,
Yeah.
what questions should I ask myself?
Yeah, it's these are 4 questions, and I invite everybody to write these down.
Hmm.
That's my way of saying write these down. Ready? So the first
Yes.
question is, am I numbing and distracting? If so, how? Ask yourself, think about it. If you do you walk into a room and you put the TV on because you are desperately trying to drown out the sound of your own thoughts?
Hmm.
You come home and you're drinking because you have to escape yourself. Be honest. The second question, what am I pretending not to see? Am I pretending not to see there's trouble in my relationship? Am I pretending not to see I hate my job? Am I pretending not to see that health issue that needs my attention? What am I pretending not to see? Be
Hmm.
honest.
Hmm.
Third question, What's life going to look like in 5 to 10 years if I do nothing? We don't want to take a look at that, but play it all the way out. Go out 5 to 10 years. Ignore that relationship issue. What's it going to look like? Ignore that job issue. 5 to 10 years. What's it going to look like? Ignore that health issue. 5 to 10 years. What's it going to look like? And the last question, what can life look like in 5 to 10 years if I change now? I'm not saying it's easy. Transformation begins when you tell yourself the truth.
I love that. Transformation begins when you tell yourself the truth. Yes, yes. Yeah, this is really deep actually, because sometimes we distract ourselves with music or with movies or with too much activities just to numb the pain, just to let go of it, just to forget about it. But it never goes away until you let it go.
It goes away when you face it, feel it, heal it. That's what we say in our community. Face it, feel it, heal it. That's the only way. The only way through it is this. The only way out the other side.
Yes. Wow, but that's difficult to face
It
it.
is. And that's why people don't want to do it. It's interesting. We have two people who leave the community. So they come into the PBT Institute, and two types of people who leave. One leaves because they're at that place of post-betrayal transformation. They're supposed to go, right? The second group, those are the people who don't want to do the work. They'd rather numb, avoid, distract. They'd rather stay with their story. And I get it, but we're not right for them then. We're for the people ready to heal, not for the people who want to complain.
Yes.
And wrong group.
Yeah. Wow, that's true. That's really deep. So I'd love you to tell me about your other book. We didn't talk about The Unshakable Woman. What's this book about? What inspired you to write The Unshakable Woman?
Yeah, that's a short but powerful read. And I wrote that very quickly after my betrayal. I wasn't ready to really talk about my betrayal just yet. But it's something that, if you're stuck, if you're really feeling like, wow, I've had this life crisis and it's holding me down. I talk about the life crisis and I talk about the self-induced life crisis. And that's, I came up with that because that's the day. And a lot of your listeners may have experienced this. That's the day you're just done. That's decision. That's the day you throw out the cookies, you pack your bags, you make the doctor's appointment, you quit the job, like that day, and everybody around you knows something's different, and either one will motivate you. The life crisis where it's kind of done to you, for you, or the self-induced life crisis where you're like, that's it. Right. And you're bringing it on yourself. You're done with your excuses. You're done with all your reasons. You're done. Right. Either way, will be a great motivator for you to get to the other side. But I'm almost done with my next book. And that is just for the people stuck in stage 3. I'm coming for you, my stage 3 people. Oh, yeah. Because it's way too many people. Way too many.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about this already, like insights into the book already?
Yeah. I don't want to give too much away, but it really is for those people who are stuck in stage 3. I am giving so many examples. So you see, there is no denying that's where you are. And then I dare you to go through the whole book and not do anything. I am giving you tools, and the whole third part of it, of the book, is all tools and resources to move yourself forward. So if you go through the whole book and you still stay stuck, you are just so happy in that miserable place. I'm not your person. I can't help.
We'll be looking forward to the book because, as you said, denial could be a very big enemy in our lives, like a big blockage for us to move forward in life. Yeah.
And I get it. And that's okay. But and different types of therapists and coaches attract different types of people. I've seen, like I said, it's my 30th year in business. And I see that I want to hear someone's story so that I know what we can do with it. I feel like, how do I accept someone's membership or tuition or payment if they only want to stay in the same place? It's not for me. I'd rather you just spend it on something else. I can't. So
yeah, well, that's good.
I'm ready. Yeah, that person who's ready, they're scared because it's terrifying. But we have every tool and resource. We have the best coaches and practitioners on the planet. I have one practitioner. He's been a therapist for 37 years. He's in our community. We have 10, 20, 30 plus years our coaches and practitioners are. So the collective wisdom in there plus that, the support from the members in our community,
Yeah.
there's nothing like it.
Mm.
There's nothing like it.
Yes. Wow. So anyone who is ready, I will encourage the person to click on the links in the show note of this episode and get across to Debi, or sign up for the, PBT Institute, and enroll, take the quiz, and become a better person. Yes. So you have an awesome podcast called From Betrayal to Breakthrough, where you
Mhm.
speak with experts from all walks of life. So
Mhm.
what are like some, common characters or traits that we can learn from your guests in over 250 episodes of your podcast?
Yeah, I know. I can't believe we have that many. And we actually, we have recorded episodes through February
Hmm.
of 2022. So I actually had to stop recording because I would record someone, and then if their episode doesn't get released till 6 months later, they can have a whole new book, a whole new something
Yes,
that
yes.
the timing was off. Anyway, so yeah, we have the most amazing experts on there. Every Monday, I have an interview with an expert, a doctor, a therapist, a thought leader, and every Friday is a solo episode. So that's where I'm just given a 10, 15 minutes, something that's going on within the community, something I've seen. I think my last one was just seven ways an unhealed betrayal is impacting your business. So it's just a short, quick, something I'm seeing, and it's something I want to help somebody with.
Yes. Wow, that's awesome. So I also place the link to your podcast in the show notes so that everyone can listen to them. I'm also listening to them. Also, it's only a 50 episode of them, so it takes a long time to finish listening to all of them. But there's a lot of lessons to learn from them, a lot of things to benefit from them. Yes. So do you have any word of encouragement for someone out there who is currently, suffering from betrayal, or who is, stuck in stage 3, for example, or who has just experienced betrayal in his or her life?
Yeah, I get it. I've been there. It's the most painful thing ever, but you owe it to yourself to heal. You owe it to yourself to heal. If you don't, it's like, I look at it like a two-sided slap. You get hit on one side by the experience, and then you're hitting yourself on the other. That's not fair to you.
No.
I didn't do anything that anybody else couldn't do. I looked at it. I mean, think about it. I had a great story. Most important people in my life all betrayed me. I would have gotten sympathy from everybody I spoke to. But at the end of the day, all you get is your story. So now I changed my story. We're helping thousands of people. So I just really feel like you were betrayed. Yes, no one can take that away from you. But you have now laid the groundwork for the most brilliant version of you who would blow your mind. That's waiting, just waiting at the other side of your healing. And you owe it to yourself.
Wow, that means we're saying that there's a better person, there's a greater person at the other side of of that journey, of that road. If you can take the trip, if you can do the work, you'll come out a better person, a greater person.
And you don't have to do it alone. I mean, that the Institute has everything I wished I had when I was healing. You don't have to do it alone. We even match you up with a buddy if you want to go through the program with someone. I mean, and go through, the community with someone. There's no place like it. It's just, think about it. It's like, you're not here just to have a bad experience and then have your story of, look what happened to me. No. When you think of any thought leader of our time, they've been through something hard. They've figured out how to, make it to the other side. And then they teach us how to do the same. Same thing here. You've been through it already. So now just move through it. Just move through it. Staying stuck in stage 3, that stinks. It's easy to do, but that's a terrible life.
That's true. That's very true. So what's the best way to connect and work with you in case there's someone who is listening to this episode and like, I really want to get across to Debi Silber and really ask her this question maybe communicate with her quickly. What's the best way to do that?
Best way is join the community. Every week I have one of the things I do is have an open Q&A. We call them coffee chats with the entire community. And then people ask me all kinds of questions, and I just focus on that question till that person is done. I mean, we're working on a higher level program, but that is, for now, my members, they get to know me. They see me every single week.
Oh, that's great.
People post things on the forums, and I'm like, good for you, try this, do that, so that's my community. So I'm all over it. If they want to get to know me, $97 a month or $297 for our higher level, where you get a session with one of our coaches every month and everything, all these other things. I mean, that's where to find me and all this great stuff.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much for everything I've been able to learn from you in this episode. I really appreciate all the tips and, walking me through the 5 stages and giving me tips on how to trust again and the purpose, the reason and the benefit of being able to do the work and go through everything and give him the assurance that you're not alone. You're never alone in this journey. You have
Yeah.
the institute, you have the forum, you have people that could help you to, go through this post-betrayal transformation. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.